Hi everybody, welcome back to the Timeless Droid channel. My new scorpion's name is Narmer. I got him at PetSmart, and when I bought him he was just called an Asian forest scorpion. I've since found out that there are 8 species of Asian forest scorpions, and I went down the rabbit hole to try to figure out which one he was. So while we go ahead and check out these anatomical diagrams of scorpions, I'll tell you a little bit about what the video is going to be about. I've found a couple of resources. One, Wikipedia, which we'll check that out. That tells some basic information about names of the 8 different species that are known. But I found a really great resource that we'll go over later that lets you actually research how many instances or occurrences in the wild that each species has had. It's a really great database, and we'll check that out. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and tell you about the differences in the emperor scorpion and the Asian forest scorpion. They are a lot alike, but the emperor scorpion has a few minor differences, and it's from Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, on the forest south of the Sahara Desert. So that one is actually the one that has been most common in the pet trade for years, but it's recently been on the do not export list from Africa. So they're really hard to get now. And when you can find one, they're overcharging for them. So I'll tell you the differences. Notice on the left with the Heterometrus that the stinger and the pedipalps are both black, and the pedipalps are actually smooth, whereas with the one on the right, which is the emperor scorpion, the pedipalps are bumpy. See that? And the telson, the pouch where they keep the venom, is reddish brownish, like an amber. That's the easiest way to tell them apart. So if you go to buy an emperor scorpion and it doesn't have that amber telson and the pedipalps are not bumpy, don't buy it, because it's probably an Asian forest scorpion. And Asian forest scorpions are going for around $20 right now. The main reason that people like the emperor scorpion better is because it's actually a mild-tempered scorpion. They aren't a whole lot different, but the Heterometrus does have a reputation for having a little bit more of a defensive personality. With either one, you're more likely to get pinched than stung. It doesn't really use its stinger very often. So what you want to do is, if you can get an emperor scorpion, go for it, because they are very docile and they're a tried and true scorpion in the pet trade. But the Asian scorpion, it's a nice scorpion. I like mine so far. It doesn't seem to be aggressive at all. So, I mean, really, they're just as good. But the emperor scorpion is a little more desirable. So in this video, I'm going to concentrate more on how to tell which species of Heterometrus scorpion you might have, rather than the care and husbandry. For that, I'll send you over to the Tarantula Collective. Richard over there at the Tarantula Collective has some great information on both the emperor scorpion and the Asian scorpion. His website has some care guides, but he also has a great video for both here on YouTube. The links are in the description, and I strongly urge you to go see Richard over at the Tarantula Collective for more information on taking care of your scorpion. In my next video, I'll go more into depth on how to take care of the scorpion, but it's going to mainly focus on how to set up your Vivarium as a bioactive setup with springtails and isopods. So stay tuned for that. But for now, go over and check out Richard at the Tarantula Collective for the videos on how to take care of the emperor scorpion and the Asian forest scorpion. So without further ado, let's get into some of the tools you can use to figure out which kind of Asian forest scorpion you have. Out of the 8, the most common of the species that you'll find in the pet trade are narrowed down to 3. The Longomanus, the Petersii, and the Spinifer. So you're looking at those 3, and out of those 3, the most commonly bred in captivity is without a doubt the Petersii.
Heterometrus longimanus, also known as the Asian forest scorpion or the Malaysian black scorpion, is a terrestrial tropical scorpion that is native to India, Malaysia, and Indonesia. This species of scorpion loves to burrow deep and hide out during the day. Also, unlike some other popular scorpions in the hobby, this species does not do well on sand and needs a more humid environment. There are a few other popular species you may find being sold in the hobby under the same name as the Asian forest scorpion: Heterometrus spinifer and Heterometrus pterosi, with the pterosi seeming to be the most commonly found in the hobby. To complicate things further, these species are often mislabeled and misidentified and sold in the hobby as emperor scorpions. But the Asian forest is more defensive than the emperor. Also, the Asian forest has a black telson or stinger, whereas the emperor has an amber yellow telson. The emperor also has larger claws in proportion to its body, and their claws are very bumpy and have a granulated texture to them, whereas the Asian forest claws are much more smooth. The emperor scorpion is from Africa, tends to burrow more, and is seemingly more docile than the Asian forest scorpion. I wouldn't describe the Asian forest as aggressive or even defensive, but they do seem a little more apt to try and pinch you or even use their stinger when they are very annoyed. But even if you were to be stung, their venom is not known to be medically significant.
Go check out the rest of Richard's video over at the Tarantula Collective right after this. The Asian forest scorpion actually comes from several different countries around the Gulf of Thailand and the South China Sea, pictured in the maps on the screen. Another thing that I want to note is that the Petersii has actually been reclassified as the Salinas. So the Petersii no longer exists, and they have discovered that it actually is the Salinas. So anytime you see the Petersii mentioned, it's actually a Salinas. So with that information, let's get into this. After we check out the Wikipedia here, I'm going to show you a list of the 8 species of Heterometrus and why they were named what they're named, which will give us some insight as to some of the characteristics that differentiate them. And I also have a graph from a website that you should check out if you want to dive into this and really find out the differences in the 4 main species, including the emperor scorpion. So here they are: the Glaucus, the Levigatus, the Laudicus, the Longomanus, the Petersii, the Solanus, the Spinifer, and last but not least, the Relly. Aquarium Breeder is a great website, and the one that I think is probably going to be the most useful for figuring out which of the 3 Heterometrus species yours is. They have some great graphs over there that tell all the differentiating qualities. So definitely go over to aquariumbreeder.com and check that out. Also from their website is a list of all 8 of the species of Heterometrus meanings, why they were named what they are named, and why. So let's check that out. So the Solanus is named after the Greek forest god. Okay. Glaucus, bluish gray. Belongimus, long hands. Okay. Thorny. Anthrelli. Laudicus, because it comes from Vietnam and Laos. Alright. The venom is actually not very potent at all. It equates to about that of a bee sting. And don't forget, they usually don't use their stingers. They're aculeus, which is what it's actually called. They will more than likely try to pinch you, if anything else. So keep that in mind. Here's the rest of the general information from Wikipedia. You can go ahead and read that or pause it at your leisure. The next segment of the video is going to be the tool that I was telling you about, where you can actually check the occurrences in the wild. When you're checking out this database, don't forget that the Solanus, the X. petersi, is actually the most common bred in captivity, but on this app that I'm about to show you, you'll see that it actually has less occurrences than a lot of the other species. So even though it's the most common in the pet trade, it's actually one of the more rare ones in the actual wild. So what you should do is keep that in mind when you're researching this. This is just the wild. This isn't a reflection of how many are in the pet trade. So here's just a short habitat information from Wikipedia, and then how to care for them very generally in captivity. But that's the end. So here we go. Here's the meaning of Asian forest scorpion. And here's the tool I was telling you about. It's called the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. It's free and open. It's an awesome resource. It's not just for scorpions, it's actually for anything. So you could go on there and look up any animal, and it will tell you the current occurrences that people are documenting. So you'll want to check that out. And remember, all the links to all of the sites and YouTube channels that I've mentioned in this video are in the description. So have fun, and I hope this has helped you figure out which Asian forest scorpion that yours is. Before we get to the Asian scorpions, I wanted to show you a couple from other countries. The first one is from Africa, the Pandanus imperator. You can see here it's sub-Saharan in the forest. And what the Pandanus imperator is the emperor scorpion. It's also known as a Heterometrus roselli because of the red telson that it has. But that name didn't stick. It's perfectly legitimate to call it a Heterometrus roselli, but the Pandanus imperator actually stuck. So you'll see it called that. The next is actually from India, and it's called the Gigantometrus swammerdami. And like I was saying, it's from India, and it also is an outdated genus name. They actually switched that one to Heterometrus as well. So it's also known as the Heterometrus swammerdami. So I wanted to go ahead and show you a couple of Heterometrus species that are not from Asia. Like you can see here, the current name for the species is Heterometrus swammerdami. And you'll see on these that they're synonymous with the other names that were previously used for them. Just wanted to show you a little bit about how to use the GBIF tool. And you'll see that under this name there are less documented occurrences because it has recently been switched to the Heterometrus swammerdami. But this site has some really neat graphs. Like here's one that shows how many occurrences are under the Heterometrus name and how many are under the other name. Let's go ahead and now that we got all that done, we'll go ahead with Aquarium Breeder's graph that I was telling you about. This is the site that you're going to want to use to decide which Heterometrus you have between the Longimanus, the Solanus, X Petersi, or Patersi, however you say it, and the Spinifer. So here are the actual charts. So go ahead and either you can pause this video, or I will definitely have a link to the Aquarium Breeder site in the description if you want to go over to the site and use the actual site. It shows the difference between the pedipalps and the telsons and some of the sizes, the amount of pectins that each one has. It's really the best information that you can get to actually compare with yours. And also this database has several pictures for these species, so you can look at several different pictures of each species on the GBIF site, not the Aquarium Breeder site. But the site said to go ahead and include the copyright info and a link to their site if I wanted to use their information, their graph there for non-commercial educational purposes, which is what I'm doing. My channel is not monetized, so I'm not getting paid for this in any way, and I'm not sponsored by anybody. So this is just my honest feelings. And here's a little information about the guy who runs the Aquarium Breeder site, Michael. So wanted to do things on the up and up and make sure that I could provide you with the best data that you can use. So we'll go ahead and get into the Asian species, the 8 different Heterometrus species in a second. But I wanted to show you some of the graphs from the GBIF site. Those are really interesting. And if you notice my Asian forest scorpion here, Narmer, I'm fairly certain from judging from that data that he is actually Solanus, which was previously the Patersi or Petersi. And you can use these graphs here to look at the difference in the arm lengths and stuff. But here's the general Heterometrus genus from the GBIF site. It's in general about all of the Heterometrus species. You can see that the site says that there are 33 different species of the Heterometrus, and we're dealing with the 8 from Wikipedia and 2 others that we know of, the Roselli, which is the emperor, and the swammerdami from India. So we know that there are a lot more than 8. Wikipedia is wrong about that, but these are some of the other graphs. Like when you drill down, it'll show you each species and what country it was documented in. It's really a great resource. I urge you to go over there and check it out. You can see a Solanus from Thailand, a Glaucus from Indonesia, Longimanus from Indonesia. It's really cool. A Laudicus from Thailand, that's interesting. And then if you drill down even further, it does tell the actual entities that have documented these occurrences, and they're pretty reputable companies. So it's probably the biggest, best resource for this kind of thing that you could probably find. These graphs here pertain to the whole genus Heterometrus, so this would include all of the species. But this is general data. I just thought I'd show you what their graphs are like with the whole genus of Heterometrus. Some interesting. They give you by country, by month. They even have like a per year here. It's pretty cool. I hope you're enjoying the video and it's giving you some useful information. I really didn't find much on YouTube when I was researching mine. I mean, you could find the different species and then it just shows their scorpion and them feeding it, or they give you a little general information how they take care of theirs, but there's nothing out there on YouTube that I've found where it actually breaks it down with the different species like this. We're going to go through the 8 now that are the most common, the ones from Wikipedia. There's the Leviticus. With the Laudicus, you'll notice that there's pictures. And you can go on there when there's pictures on the most common ones. There are lots of pictures. You can click on the pictures and actually go check them all out. And they all have like this is like a more detailed information about who created the sighting or the occurrence and documented it. Like, pretty great information. Now the Heterometrus longimanus, same thing for that. It has the card, and then it's got the detailed information for each picture you click on. It'll have this information of who documented it and everything. I really enjoy it. Now here's another interesting thing: the Palamnius pteridzi. The Palamitous name is actually an old name that all of them were under. See how it says synonym of Heterometrus? So whenever you see that Palamnius, it's actually an old name that is now not used. It's actually Heterometrus for all of them. So there's the regular updated one, the Heterometrus pteridzi, but as we know, that's been outdated too, and it's no longer the pteridzi. They have realized that it's actually the Solanus, so even this is outdated. I'm sure they will update it soon, but right now it doesn't have the synonym information. It doesn't say it's synonymous with the Solanus, but it is. This is something that's recent and that has just happened. So there's a bunch of pictures like that showed the pictures that you'll see under the Heterometrus pteridzi. You can click on them and then drill down, and each picture will have this information of who documented it. And it's a really great resource to look at several different pictures of each species, which is very helpful for figuring out which one you have. You'll see this one is all the Heterometrus pteridzi or Peterzi, however you say it. I just did to show you what the results would look like. Now you see the Solanus even had the Palamnius name. So, but you'll also see that there are only 2 occurrences with pictures and none recorded. So here's the actual updated current version of that scorpion. There's 44 occurrences of the Solanus, lots of pictures, because that was a known species before. It's not like they changed the name of all of them. They had the Solanus, but what happened with the pteridzi is there was only one female that was, here's one for the spinifer. There was only one female that they actually studied and decided that was a new species and called it pteridzi. Well, it turns out that the young juvenile ones and the females, it's very unreliable. It's hard to figure out which species they are. I guess I should have mentioned that earlier, but this data, these pictures, it works a lot better for the male. So these are guidelines that are going to let you figure out what kind of male you have. But if you have a female or a younger one, it may be a little more difficult. Here's some pictures in between Narmer of the Scorpion King. These vases and pottery are actual ones found in Egypt that depict the Scorpion King Narmer, the first pharaoh that joined Upper and Lower Egypt, became the first pharaoh. This one's cool. It has like almost like a feathers for the tail. It's pretty cool, but you can tell it's supposed to be a scorpion. There's Narmer. There's this bird that has a scorpion in his claws. That's pretty cool. There's Narmer. If you notice the smooth on his pedipalps and the dark telson and the way he holds his arms out instead of long like the Longomanus, I'm pretty sure he's a Solanus. And they have little pinchers on their feet so they can hang onto the screen upside down. They don't mind being upside down at all. Here's my Narmer eating a mealworm. I handed it to him. Finish him. Fatality. Here's a preview of some of the clips and pictures from my next video. It's going to be about how to set up a bioactive vivarium for your scorpion using springtails and isopods. So stay tuned for that. It won't be too awful long before I release that. But I'm still working on it, so it may be a little while, but here's some of the isopods. They're so cool. They're so cute. I got the small ones. The ones I have are actually the Neambia capensis, which are African Cape isopods. But these ones here that I have were actually recovered from the wild in a cave in, I believe, Colorado. So these were sourced from America. But after research from Smug Bug, a friend of hers is actually the one that actually collected them, and that's how she got them. I got them from her, Laura from Smug Bug over there. And they're a dwarf species, but unlike the dwarf whites, which are parthenogenic, these ones don't play dead. They're a little bit bigger, and they're regular isopods. They actually breed by having sex rather than parthenogenically. Yeah, the dwarf whites, they actually recreate by being parthenogenic, which means they clone themselves, basically. They're all females, and they just clone themselves. Technically, you could populate your vivarium with one, really, but and they're a good option if you just want a cleanup crew for your vivarium. Then they're a great option because they're hardy and they multiply quickly, and they do a good job. But they play dead, and if you're going to view your isopods as just a cleanup crew, then yeah, get the dwarf whites. But you can see these cute little guys. They're like regular isopods. They're just small. And they do take longer to populate the tank, and it takes them a while to breed, but I think they're great. I view them as like a secondary pet, because while the scorpion's sleeping all day in his cave, then you got something to check out and work with during the daytime, waiting for him to wake up. So another thing, Smug Bug is gay friendly. She has this sticker that I bought. It's called I Support You. It's kind of cute. It's like a pride thing. Well, that's the end of the video, so have fun figuring out which Heterometrus species you have, and tune in next time for that other video. Thanks.